CJ here, back for another movie review. It's been a while, been a long while, so to speak, and yeah. So Ant-Man and the Wasp. I would like to say, for the record, coming off a post-Infinity War world where you had a movie that ended on a very downer note, which is to be expected because it's Thanos. He's out here wrecking stuff, and you know, great movie. Ended on a bit of a downer, and it made people feel some sort of way. So, Ant-Man and the Wasp is definitely a welcome levity to what we end up getting in the proceedings and such. Uh, so the basic crux of Ant-Man and the Wasp is basically piggybacking off of what happened at the end of Ant-Man. Hank basically gets the idea of, hey, I want to sit there and see if there's a possibility of saving Janet, who, if you remember correctly, fell in the quantum realm, per the story and such. Now, this movie takes place overall 2 years after, 2 years after Civil War, and a little before the proceedings of Infinity War, and a little bit after Infinity War. But that's basically the gist of the timeline of this movie. And Scott, during these 2 years and stuff, he's been on house arrest because, the Accords stuff and, what he did. So during this 2 year period, he's been basically spending time with his daughter, which this movie as a whole is very family centric. So Scott has been spending time with his daughter Cassie. Hank and Hope during the 2 year period, they've been trying to basically build technology that would build a ship, so to speak, to be able to get the ability to rescue Janet inside the quantum realm. So you have all this happening and such, and like I said, much like the first Ant-Man movie, it's a very simple premise and such. Hey, Hank wants to sit there and rescue Janet by virtue of using what knowledge that he gleaned from Scott from the last movie and stuff, and there are some people out to kind of prevent them from doing that. You got Walter Goggins' characters, Sonny Birch, very low level gangster, but he's also a black weapons dealer who also deals in technology, and in particular, he actually wants Hank Pym's technology because that's something that would net him a lot of money on the black market. So you got him. Simple kind of stuff because these are things that if you read comics, that's a thing, in the Marvel U is the fact of the black market and a lot of tech from heroes end up popping out there and stuff and being used in two different degrees. So as somebody like me who's very appreciative of lore, I like that kind of stuff. I think that was always going to be a thing, especially we saw it in Spider-Man Homecoming, the fact that Vulture and Tinkerer were developing all this tech to give to people and stuff, and it's out there in the world. You can't stop it, until Spider-Man ended up stopping it. So in the meantime, you got that on that angle. On the other angle, you got Ghost. I think it's played by Hannah Kamen. Ghost in the comics was a dude. Not much of a big deal that they changed, her gender to a woman and stuff. If anything, Ghost is a very niche character who his whole shtick was he had a suit that gave him the ability to become intangible. He was I want to say he's an Iron Man villain, so to speak, given that world of Iron Man of corporate espionage and stuff, because that's the gist of what Ghost in the comic did was corporate espionage for the highest bidder. And he had a suit that gave him the ability to do that. Well, in this movie, she is a byproduct of an accident involving Pym and Foster kind of dealing with the quantum, I guess the quantum realm and stuff and the powers from there. And it affected her that basically made her constantly shifting and dying and hurting in the process. So, again, in the bout of world building, she comes across Shield. Shield hooks her up with a suit that gives her kind of an ability to control the powers to a degree, and basically makes her be able to shift and stuff. And I just want to say that the visuals of this movie is great. But in particular, when it comes to Ghost and her powers and seeing her phase and stuff, it looks great. It looks awesome. But in particular, with Hank, with Scott, I should say. So let me get that. So you got Ghost. She's trying to obtain Hank's lab because in this movie, I'm pretty sure again you saw the commercials. He basically miniaturized his lab that he's been using to develop his powers, and she's trying to obtain it so she can cure herself. So it's kind of this three-way. It's kind of this three-way entanglement and stuff where everybody's trying to, you got these two bad guys going after Hank and Hope and stuff, and you got Scott kind of caught in the middle of it and stuff because he wants to help, but then he's on house arrest and he's had to deal with all this stuff. And then Louise and Kurt and Dave and Scott, during that period of time, also during this 2-year period of time, they set up a company, ex-cons, where they basically help other people protect their stuff because hey, since they're ex-cons, they know how to break into stuff, so they can use that ability to do that. So they're all struggling trying to get clients. Scott's trying to help them, but like I said, he's getting caught up with this stuff with Hope and Hank, and the stuff with Ghost, and then the stuff with Sonny. So it's all just kind of culminating into just a lot of and it's very, again, it's not a hard plot to really decipher. It's very simple, just like the first Ant-Man movie. So I guess start off first thing first is the fact of the lore building. Again, I'm a huge fan of lore building, and I love the things that they do because a lot of folks were kind of wondering how is Ant-Man going to figure into Infinity War? And what I can say about this movie is, without spoiling, is that they do a good job of planting seeds for what could possibly happen in Avengers 4. And when you hear it from a particular character, and given what this movie is doing, I'm pretty sure for a lot of us, you can put two and two together and be like, oh, I know what you're doing. And like when you get to that realization, it's kind of like, oh my God, I can't wait. And like I said, some people will, some people won't, but like me in particular, I like that shit. I like that shit a lot. So the movie does a good job of planting those seeds for what's going to happen with the gang in Avengers 4, but they do it in a way that feels natural. It doesn't take away from the plot of the movie, which again, this movie with the science of it and stuff like that is wrapped in real, but it's also wrapped in the comic book science, so your results will vary on whether you're going to do that. But it's besides the point because you got the gist of what you're doing. You don't really have to, burn your brains out on it and such. So just the visuals of everything, whether you got Scott who has a suit that's malfunctioning and stuff because as he told Hank, oh man, I destroyed the suit so nobody could take it, and Hank gives him this new suit that he was developing, and it malfunctions, and it makes for a lot of fun visual stuff. Whether you got at one point Scott turns into a little person and looks like a little kid, and it's funny as hell. Again, a lot of stuff in commercials, but in the context of the scene and everything that happens when he does it, it's funny. Just to him becoming this giant person and stuff, the visuals of it look nice. It looks gorgeous. Like I said, Ghost phasing looks awesome. Hope as Wasp, visually and just her character period, is just all sorts of badass. She can fly in the suit. She can shoot these little electric blasts and stuff. She can also shoot things that make things big and small and stuff like Scott can do with the discs. Everything about her character is just great. You can kind of feel the "it's about damn time" thing, like you remember at the end of the last movie when he was like, "Oh hey, I got a suit for you" and stuff. She says, "It's about damn time." You can feel that she's really been itching to want to sit there and get into a super suit and do work. And when she gets into that suit, she puts in the work and kicks ass and takes names, and it's great. Like I said, Louise, Dave and Kurt. Louise steals the show. Obviously, he has tons of moments, and like I said, Michael Pena is just great. Lawrence Fishburne, great as Bill Foster and stuff. Again, his character adds a lot to the lore building because, full disclosure, Foster and Pym used to work at S.H.I.E.L.D. on Project Goliath, which ties into how Scott was able to grow big and stuff. again, it's one of those it's all connected kind of things, you know, and it's great to see the interaction between Foster and Hank and stuff. They have a bit of animosity and stuff, and it's great. It's awesome. Um, you know, like I said, the whole crux, and it's amazing to me. Just to back it up here, it's amazing to me that we're coming off of Luke Cage season 2, which was very much family first centric and such, and you know, with all the characters dealing with their family issues. And you got this movie where everybody has different degrees of dealing with family issues. Whether you got, um, you know, Hank and Hope and them kind of bonding over trying to get back Janet. Whether you got Scott and Cassie and their little interactions and such. You know, Scott trying to make amends with Hank and Hope because of what he did in Civil War and taking the suit and putting Hope and Hank on the run the way he did. Just a lot of things, you know. It's a lot of family-esque type drama in this movie at times and stuff, but it doesn't deter from the comedy of what you end up getting out of this film. So, but yeah, just overall, this movie is great. You know, if I had to really grade it, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. You know, just overall, this movie is great. You won't regret it and stuff. Great visuals, funny movie, just front to back. It doesn't like when you watch this film, you would never have figured that it's something that would tie into Infinity War and Avengers 4. And like I said just a minute ago, they do it in such a seamless way that you don't necessarily feel it takes away from the movie. I mean, in fact, just like the first Ant-Man movie, they don't necessarily do anything overt to kind of kind of divert away from the main plot story just to set up X, Y, and Z of what happened before, or set up X, Y, and Z in the MCU. It's just, hey, this is what you get. We're gonna give you little nibbles and stuff of MCU stuff, and then but we're gonna still tell our story, and it works. It definitely works overall. I don't really have much negatives and such about the movie. I think things about this movie worked. You know, if anything, it'd be kind of one of those I wish that they emphasize certain things, because Randall Park plays Jimmy Woo. And if you remember Jimmy Woo, he's a SHIELD agent who basically runs a group called the Agent Atlas. And when they announced Randall Park as Jimmy Woo, I was like, well, it's the MCU. We're not going to get the, you know, Agents of Atlas and stuff. And in this movie, he's an FBI agent and stuff. But yeah, just a lot of, like I said, he's an FBI agent. He works. He's very funny and stuff. Like I said, him and Scott's interactions with one another is hilarious and stuff, and it's awesome and it's great. Um, but yeah, I think I emphasized the whole idea of like hope. Actually, Janet for a second. Michelle Pfeiffer, I feel does a great job in this movie when we see her, when we see Janet and such. She does a great job. You know, it's kind of one of those, like, her and Michael Douglas, they have very believable chemistry, especially when you see them together in this movie. It's very believable chemistry. At no point are you questioning, like, how the hell does she love him? But everything, I would say everything about this film overall, it's just, everything just comes across natural and smooth. It does its job and does what it has to do. So, yeah, I feel if I keep going, it's just I'm gonna end up spoiling stuff. So, at any rate, like I said, I give it a 9 out of 10. Definitely go check it out. Go see it. You won't regret it. And yeah, that's it. Peace out.